Welcome to my channel, Ken's Hobbies. As you see, my title of my channel is Ken's Hobbies. Well, one of my hobbies is music collecting records, which I have a very large supply, right from the old 78s, 45s, LPs, 10-inch and 12-inch, cassette tapes, 8-track tapes, and reel-to-reel tapes, making a total of 6. Oh, and CDs also. So out of the 7 from yesteryear to present, I thought I was going through some of my there, and from my former channel that I sold, I had 2 songs in my collection that I've saved, that I recorded on my record player. Now, that's what gave me the idea. I'm making a video here about a little bit of the history and the order they started, the way records and etc. came about and was purchased. Starting with the very first one was an old cylinder cone. Now, I used to have one of these cylinder cone record players that I got from my neighbor when I was younger, and it got thrown away on me, and so I've regretted it. But what it was a machine. You cranked it up to play it, then you slid this cone onto the cylinder, and then the needle would track like this down the cylinder. Then along came the 78 RPM. That's revolutions per minute. How do I describe it? Kind of a love song. So, record players. Now, let's get to that for a second. Record players used to come, the first, like I said, the first one being a cylinder cone, and then the second one was 78 RPM. So I put the camera to show you the speed of the 78 RPM records as I was recording it, therefore making a video out of it. Today, as being part of my hobby, I thought I'd put these records on, so for those of you who don't know what a 78 RPM record was, give you an idea of a 78 RPM record. Now, these records were 10 inches in circumference, and when the LPs, which stood for long play, the first ones were also 10-inch in circumference. And depending on, I have a few of those too, and I think it was only about 4 songs per side, if I remember right, till the improvement came to a 12-inch LP record, which is the most common. Now, during that time, shortly after the first LPs started, along came the 45 RPM record, and they were mostly your single hits. That was a 7-inch record, and it had about a 1-inch hole in the center. So I'll show you the adapter that you needed if you're going to use it a 45 on a normal turntable. I got interrupted there. Now, where was I? Trying to recall now where I was left at when I had to shut down for. I got an idea. What I'm going to do, what I'll do here, I'm going to show you all the different stages there was to our music era, especially in my time. Sure, a lot of you younger ones, like history, would be interested in seeing how it was to your present day. One thing I will say is I am so glad that LPs are back, and one of the biggest differences a lot of people do not realize, and I will explain it. The difference between any record and a CD. Let's start with the CD. Well, the CD, it works on a laser principle. You have this laser beam that points at the disc. So say this is your disc. Well, this is all labeled. There's no actual physical touching. Now, if that CD aluminum strip that holds the info on the CD gets damaged, then that laser beam will stop there and it'll literally burn a hole in that aluminum foil in between the layers of those plastic that protects this aluminum layer. And I've had 2 or 3 CD where I think if I find it, I will show it to you. Whereas any record, 78, right from your cylinder cone, I should say, your 78, your 45, and your LPs, when you put that needle on, provided you do not put your fingers on the grooves of the tracking of the music, because there's oil is always on your fingers, and that, you get any dirt in your fingers, that will embed into that record, and that's what causes a skip, or I should say a jump, whatever you want to call it. More, I would term the more being a stuck. And I'm sure a lot of you remember the old, when it was stuck, it hit that little bad spot and then jumped the needle back. But as long as that needle is put onto that record, it will follow that groove right through to the end of the record. Not like a CD. That's why my term for CDs are garbage discs, because the fact that it's only a laser beam that reads it. Now a CD works the same as your hard drive in your computer on heads and sectors. So if it can't read that one sector, bye-bye CD. That's why I call them garbage discs, because a record will outlast a CD. And yes, today's prices of records are almost double to triple what it used to be back in the 60s and 70s. It was in the 80s when the CD came out originally. Well, now, I was in Edmonton, one of the biggest record stores there that eventually was all CDs, has gone back to the record. They told me straight to the face that the LPs are now outselling the CDs. Yeah, I can understand why, because that record will outlast that CD. So then in the long run, that record is still cheaper than that CD is. The CD may be cheaper to buy, but in the long run, your record is cheaper. And I just bought Dolly Parton's box set, Rockstar box that the Dolly Parton just released lately. I still haven't opened it yet to record it. Anyway, this one's here. We're done by Arthur Godfrey, called For Me and My Gal. So hope you enjoy. Anyhow, if for some reason YouTube gives a copyright on there, I will eliminate the song.
What a beautiful day for a wedding in May. See the people out there at that lovable pair. She's a vision of joy, and he's the luckiest boy in his wedding array. Here a smiling day. The bells are ringing for me and my gal. The birds are singing for me and my gal. Everybody's been knowing to the wedding they're going, and the weeks they've been going. Every Susie and Sam. There's congregation for me and my gal. The parson's waiting gonna build a little home for two, 3 or 4 or more in love land for me and my dad. And sometimes I'm gonna build a little home, 3 or 4 or more in love land for me and my gal.
Okay, well, I switched cameras here. I went in the house here, and I'll begin with showing my setup and the reason why I run Windows XP on that unit. For our present day monitors, I don't know how many you remember the old CRT, standing for cathode ray tube monitors. I lucked out in finding a 20-inch one here, and it's still working, so I keep it for an emergency. This is my tape recorder. I just replaced the belt in there, right there, and I haven't gotten around to putting it together, because to get that belt there was one special design screw and nut there which dropped on me, and I still haven't been able to find it. This is my turntable. It's a dual turntable. I'll just take the cover off of here so I can run through this, and I see already I'm missing one item. Just go through it here, the controls on this. It's a dual 1218. This is your adjustment for what size your record was. Presently, you see I got it on the 12-inch. When I put that position, it's for your 10-inch. And this position is your 7-inch. So we're going to keep this on our 12-inch for now. This control is for starting it. And this is the important one. There's our speed. We have our 33 1/3. Next one over is 45 RPM. And this position is for your 78. Now what I love about this turntable is the balance of the table itself. This is a direct drive, and it's on ball bearings, as you can see, just rotating with just spinning of the finger. This came along with 3 different adapters. This had the feature of automatic drop. So you select, if you're going to put a pile of records on, you'd put this there, and now you can stack your records so one could drop at a time. Choice number 2, you could also have this adapter, which is one I use mostly for your LPs. The third adapter in here is the one of the styles that I was talking about, which is your 45 adapter. When you're going to play a 45, which is your 7-inch record, you take that adapter and put it onto this. I'm hoping I can find that adapter, so we have to look for it. As I was saying about record coming back, well, here is the box set of Dolly Parton's newest record that I still haven't gotten around to recording. During our COVID, the Grand Ole Opry came out with this album here, and all these songs on here were done by Marty Stewart, Reba McEntire, Keith Urban, Luke Combs, Dolly and Vincent, and Ricky Skaggs, Rodney Crowell, Vince Gill, and Emmylou Harris, Trace Atkins, Brad Paisley, Carrie Underwood, Douglas Rucker, Old Crow Medicine Show, Don Fleming, Billy Strings, and Molly Turtle. All these were songs that they did to keep the circle going, and thus the title, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? If I remember right, the song was written by A.P. Carter. Oh! It's full of junk here. This was one of the first turntables out, and it was the very first automatic drop record changer that tapped into our radio. The glass broke on me here for this radio. This radio still does work. I've completely rebuilt it, put all new capacitors, and got the thing working. We had our, gosh, it's been so long since I used it. Trying to remember. Okay, this was the tuning for your station here, and it had AM, FM, and shortwave bands on it, and that was our tone, and this was the volume control, and this was the switch for what band you want to use. As you see, I just got a temporary knob on there because during my move a tube dropped out on me, and I haven't gotten around to replacing that too. Anyway, this was one style that was used for your 45 RPM records, so that it changed it to that style. Very popular item in the early days, and that's one advantage with the dual record changers when they came out with the adapter, which was the other style. Took everything out here. I'll give you a closer look here. This is our main control here. As you can see, it had a momentary there when you want to reject, or if you want to play it on automatic, or if you want to play it manual position and your off position. Now, in the early record turntable, you had a cartridge. So when you played a 78, you put the cartridge so the needle would be in that position, and for 45s you'd flip it to that position. I keep it in the middle to protect the needles. This was not the cartridge that originally came with this turntable. It was one that I adapted into it because I modified it. As I mentioned, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. This is your arms here. So when you took the records off, you'd have it in that position. As you see, it is slightly curved on the arm, center arm here. There. So when you were stacking my LPs, and what I did to modify it was I made little spindles. One spindle for my 45 RPM and one spindle for my 78. But I machined the motor down so that, I wonder if I can, it's been so long since I don't remember now how, if I had to take this apart or how this, if I could I just lift this table up. Let's just give it a try here. Oh yeah. Give you a little closer look of how I modified it. The motor right here. This is the driving wheel that drove the table. So what I did was I filed this shaft down to slow it down for the 33 RPM record. That was one of my first turntables and the project that I did. Now let's put the turntable back on. Now this turntable was strictly monaural. It was before stereo was even thought of. As I was saying, you flip that down, it held the record on like that, and when you put your last one, you'd put this second lever down here. So when it come to the end, it would shut itself off. I hauled this when it was given to me. I was just in my early teens, and collecting old radios was a hobby of mine as well, and I had this given to me. Well, would you believe I tore this cabinet apart and I brought it piece by piece home on my bicycle. Now here's another piece of history. When the 8-track tapes came out, cassettes were out before 8-tracks were, for those your information. I was working in a radio TV shop when the introduction of cassettes came out, as well as when the introduction of 8-tracks came out. This was your 8-track. What I do mostly is I save all these. I go to garage sales and I'll buy these up, and I take the tapes out and use them for my reel-to-reel up there. So when the 8-tracks came out, there's a lot of saying, well, I can't play my cassettes anymore. So this was the adapter that came out, and you'd plug it into your 8-track machine, and you could play your cassette on an 8-track unit. Now, when I worked in the TV shop, radio TV shop, we all knew that the 8-tracks would not last, and that the cassette would outlast the 8-track. which sure as heck did. The reason why the 8-tracks did not last is because this was what they call an endless play tape. So it had a little magnetic strip that would change it when it was coming near the end of the length of the tape, would switch to the next track. Well, two of the issues were, say you were halfway through a song, it would fade out that, switch the track, and then fade back in the balance of the song that was starting to play, for example, track 1, and it'd have to change to track 2. That was one. The other thing is, with these endless play tape, this tape would tighten itself up as time goes. So now, your capstan drive, which they were called, tape gets so tight that the motor driving this little wheel right here wouldn't be able to pull the tape through. Thus, it caused trying to play it through. I just noticed a couple of records here that I thought all about. Oh yeah, those two I still have yet to replace. That's why these are the covers. This record originally was my mom's, and I accidentally broke both of them. Still haven't replaced them. Yeah, so that's why I put them there. And these are all my tapes. These two boxes are full of tape. Reel-to-reel tapes, that is. That was your full-size reel-to-reel tape. Nice pair of headphones. I obtained these headphones after my split with my first wife. I was going with this lady. Her name was Elizabeth. I haven't forgotten her yet to this day. She gave me these as a Christmas present one year. And at that time, they were a very expensive pair of headphones. How I met her to begin with was because I am a mechanic. I was heading to my buddy's place in Alberta, and I saw this Mazda station wagon in front of me. All of a sudden, a cloud of steam came around the bend. I saw immediately where the steam was coming, so I stopped to assist. Well, as soon as I walked up to the vehicle, I noticed it was a Mazda rotary. Well, I knew all about the Mazda rotary engines because before moving to Edmonton, that's what I was doing here in Prince George with my partner. When rotary engine had the problem with seal, and the seal would go, and thus therefore it caused the overheating and losing all your antifreeze. So I didn't look at who was there. I just quickly wanted to verify this engine if it was the seals, and sure enough, I spotted the spraying of the antifreeze spraying right out of between the blocks. So as I looked up, lo and behold, two beautiful women, both blonde, and thus, I don't know. Well, all I said was, I don't know how to tell you this, but this is as far as you're going to go. So I offered to help them out, and from that point we went to, I brought them back to Edmonton, get how many miles out of Edmonton we were, and made arrangements to get a car brought to Edmonton. Well, the Mazda dealer, they wanted so much money. I said, well, I could do it a hell of a lot cheaper and save you well over $1,200. So I didn't do the engine in it. I replaced the engine in this car, and we became very, very close friends. So that's why at Christmas, she got me those headphones as a thank you tribute, or whatever you want to call it. And they still work, and very nice headphones too, so I treasure them. There was the reason I had to replace the belt on this machine, and of course once I had to replace that, I managed to find the kit so I could replace both belts. This is the issue. When you were recording, this was your pause button. You'd pull this down, as you just saw. I better get it out of there before I lose it entirely. But I want to keep it in. That's why I've got it leaning right now here, because this screw is the key one there, and this arm has to slide in that screw up and down. That's why it's a special. One of these days I'll get to finishing it. But the tape recorder itself, three basic sections. Section 1, the main reel-to-reel there. Section 2 here with the VU meters, which stood for volume per unit. Still wish they'd use these style to this day. Beat the idiot lights that are used now. We had sound on sound feature on here. We had an echo feature that you could add to here. We had a choice of input selection here. We had four types. So this is how I've got it set up. I got my turntable. There's my 8-track, and below on the floor is my cassette deck. I have to get a new belt on that deck, and that's why it's sitting there. I haven't gotten around to doing that. That's all plugged into there. This section here called the preamp. This vertical section here was the main amp. So the beauty is, I want to record a record, I just need to turn the preamp on. If I wanted to play anything there, I just need to turn the main amp on. So we're just turn the preamp. My selection is already on the phono, which is the other term for a turntable. That was its first term, phono. These two switches were your source switches, whether it was the tapes above here that you're playing or your sound. Now the beauty about this recorder, why I loved it, one of the reasons I should say, is when you were in this position on that and you had this there and you're recording it, that's when you could use the sound on sound or the echo. You could also use your microphones, your left channel and your right channel. This is a Sony TC630. The model was one of the top of the line tape recorders back in the 70s. And it's been a very faithful unit for me. Anyhow, as I was starting to say, when I'm on there and I'm doing a recording, this is the reason we're 3 heads here. This is your main playback head. This is your erase head. But the big feat, or was it vice versa? Yeah, record, erase, record, playback. That was the order. Erase, record, playback. So if I was recording a record, for example, onto a tape, I got these switches in the source position. Now it's erased the blank tape and the material erased. Stage 2, then now it was recording that record. Now if you want to adjust the volume here in the record for true volume of your tape, you could throw these down into the source position after it was recorded from this, so you could hear if there was a droppage, readjust your volume to get the perfect recording. And like I said, with this head being here, you could add your sound on sound. So for example, if you were recording on the left channel with your mic and you want to put it over onto the right channel with additional music, that's where this little switch would come in, from right to left or left to right. Thus the name sound on sound. If you want to add echo, you had your adjustment right here that you could add your echo. The faster you used, we had 3 speeds to this unit. Faster on there at the 7 1/8, I think it was, or something like that. There was 1 7/8, 3 3/4, 7 1/2. I got it presently on the fast speed there, so when you were in this position, man, you'd get a beautiful echo. Whereas versus when you were on the very slow speed, which is right there, it wouldn't give you as much echo as it would there. Most of the recordings were that. Now, between your cassette deck and your 8-track played at that speed, which was your 3 3/4, versus your cassettes, which played at that speed, which was your 1 7/8. That's why the 8-track did have a little slight better sound to it, but as I mentioned, the problems it would have. So therefore, you were better off to use your cassette. Cassettes lasted long till the introduction of your CD. There's just a few of my CDs. Anyway, get back to how I got this all set up. From my turntable, goes to there. Now, I got a card in here. I call this my media, and my son gave me the nickname the Media Man, and it suits me because of my love for music. That's the reason I run NXP.